Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire.
What does asbestos management mean to you?
I used to really struggle with the asbestos management at my site, but now it's a breeze.
It used to be really expensive. I was paying loads, but now I've got my asbestos power team in place. It's so much easier.
Asbestos can be a pain in the arse if not handled right.
We had to stop the job because asbestos was discovered. Now we don't have that problem.
Asbestos management is easier than you think. Asbestos management. Be proactive, not reactive. Think about asbestos first, not last.
And now your hosts, best-selling authors and asbestos experts, Ian Stone and Neil Munro.
Hi, welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire. I'm Ian Stone.
I'm Neil Munro.
So today we wanted to talk to you about entering confined spaces and inspections within confined spaces.
Yeah, it comes up not every day, but quite often during asbestos surveys and inspections.
It's more often than people would consider, I think.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Because it's not a consideration a lot of people have about confined spaces and what is a confined space. I suppose so. That's the first port of call.
Kind of. So yeah.
What would we class as a confined space?
So it's basically anywhere where there's a restriction to either movement or there could be a restriction to the oxygen supply within that area. So, for example, ducts are kind of a common one that we would class as.
Yeah.
Floor ducts where you've got surfaces running in there and it is a confined space and there is kind of pipe work or there could be, settled gases within that area that can deem it as confined space. You could have kind of basement areas.
Yeah, basement areas, basement boiler rooms, things like that.
Underfloor or under crofts like that. So, then there may be like a ground floor and then you've got like a subfloor underneath it. That would be classed probably as a confined space.
Old silos and vessels, things like that we need to enter into. They're more of an obvious one because access and egress into those is difficult. You've got one point of entry and exit in those. Confined spaces don't always just have one point of entry and exit, do they? But
sewers is a good one because sewers, although they can be quite big and you can actually walk through it quite easily.
Some of them are huge.
Yeah. However, the oxygen supply in these areas is probably not the best, and because of the gases created from the sewerage, that would be classed as a confined space.
Yeah.
Tunnels, basement cellars, boiler rooms. Boiler cupboards even could be classed as a confined space.
Yeah, and that's it. Kind of any area, like I say, where access and egress is difficult, where there could be the build-up of gases, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
restriction of movement.
Yeah, we're coming at it from the point of view of carrying out like an asbestos survey, aren't we, really?
Yeah, an inspection. So that's kind of what it is. So these come up now and again, and it really has to be planned and because a standard surveying team or inspection team is not going to be geared up to enter these areas, are they?
No, you don't carry that gear. And secondly, not everybody is confined space trained.
No, that's just kind of the starting point, isn't it?
Yeah, the first and foremost, or kind of like, if you're out doing inspections and site work, the most basic thing that you should have is confined space awareness training.
Yes.
Now, that then gives you the knowledge and the information to identify these areas so you don't end up going into them and putting yourself at risk.
Exactly that.
But then the next one on is the actual confined space entry training, which it's a full day course. You have to put on BA kit, breathing apparatus kit, and you do practice entering tight confined spaces and getting in and out of them and that kind of stuff.
And practice, what do you do in an emergency and how do you exit that safely? So what do you need then to enter these? Obviously, the starting point is the confined space training.
Yeah.
And generally, we would be looking to put a team of 3 usually, no less than that.
No,
generally speaking.
I suppose first, before we got to that point, it'd be assessing it, wouldn't it?
Yes.
We'd need to assess it and put the plan of works together. And then we kind of know who's going to go and do the job and how that project is going to be carried out.
Yes.
And then, like you say, then it usually is a minimum 3-person team.
Yeah.
Because you've got 2 surveyors within the confined space as such. And then we've always got an outside person who's there that can communicate. So if something does go wrong, then they can assist.
Yeah.
Because the third person is there for the safety winch, the control winch.
Yeah. So you would need a rescue lifting tripod.
Yeah.
That's sort of positioned outside the entry point, and that's basically with a harness.
Mm-hmm.
The individuals going in there would be wearing a harness.
Yeah.
And the winch is to obviously help them lift them out if they become unconscious.
Yeah. And again, it's all very well having the confined space course, but then there's different types of winches and stuff like that out there.
Yeah.
So when you do hire them, again, you need to make sure that you know how to use that equipment.
Yeah.
Because when you do need to use it, you don't want to go, oh shit, this is a different one to what I used in the course.
Exactly that. Yeah.
So you kind of need to familiarise yourself with that gear.
Yeah. Most hiring, those types of companies that hire that equipment do that sort of like familiarisation with the equipment. But yeah, that's really important because there's no point in having all these things if you don't know how to use it.
Exactly.
No, definitely. That's a very good point.
Another thing that they definitely need would be communication, way to communicate.
Yeah.
Hollering down the tunnel.
Doesn't work.
No, we don't need to act like, 19th century miners anymore, do we? We can use decent radios now, digital radios that do penetrate through thick concrete and all the rest of it. So again, the communication can happen between that 3-person team.
Yeah. So anyone the team going down would probably need gas monitors.
Yes, definitely gas monitors. And you want a multi-purpose gas monitor. You wouldn't just want a basic CO2 monitor. You want one that's picking up sulfates, all sorts of other things as well. Anything weird and wonderful because, all right, there might not be a risk from your kind of risk assessment point of view of, right, we don't think there's anything else here.
Yeah.
But the ground itself can be contaminated and can emanate out gases itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and gases kind of, they do sort of fall down into these areas and they can just sit dormant within these locations. Don't forget, these locations, you're going in probably to locations where no one's ever been before, maybe, or very rarely.
Not been for donkey's years.
Yeah, since probably maybe the building's been constructed. So,
I mean, other things as well on that and the gases to consider are in areas. I mean, somebody might go in there every day, but it's classed as confined space. But you think, oh no, it's fine. However, a different type of kind of season of the year might affect it because you might need to enter a confined space in the winter. Now, in the summer, there's no risk or anything, because there's nothing in there. However, in the winter, you have a generator running at ground level or a vehicle running at ground level next to where that entrance point is. And like you just said, although gases and exhaust fumes are going to fall down and sit at the bottom of that confined space.
Yeah, because it's generally there. The gases are heavier than the normal air, so they kind of like, drift down to the bottom and sort of sit on the bottom locations. So what else do we need? So we've talked about the winch, gas monitors, BA equipment. So
so BA equipment we've not really spoke about that, have we?
Breathing apparatus.
Yes. Yeah, we're not talking about BA barracas.
No. And basically that's for in the event of emergency they would only use that. So where there's maybe where the gas monitor detects that there is something in there, this is to be used in emergency to get out, and obviously you've got safe breathing air.
Yeah, and normally what that is, that's a cylinder of air, essentially like scuba divers have, but it's a lot smaller, compact version. It's usually a hooded respirator that's line is fed between the mask and the actual cylinder, and they come in different shapes and sizes. Now, again, this comes down back to kind of the risk assessment point of view of how far are you going underneath?
You've got to have enough oxygen to get out.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them are like 10, 15-minute escape breathing apparatus kits that come together, which 15 minutes is quite a lot. However, you need to consider if you're in an area and there's a lot of stuff you have to crawl through, literally like army crawl through on your belly.
Yeah.
Well, you're not covering a lot of space and a lot of ground in 10 or 15 minutes.
No.
So is that actually adequate enough?
Yeah.
So it's got to be the right equipment for the right job. And that's why every single time it's got to be assessed properly.
Yeah. And that equipment has to be available for all the individuals that are involved within that confined space work.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, off the back of that, so the alarm goes off and somebody's coming out. Well, you do need to have that plan of action if something does go wrong.
Yeah.
And again, you do run through this on the course. Some of our surveyors, the kind of confined space stuff comes up fairly infrequently.
Yes.
So again, at the beginning of that job, instead of just setting the gear up and cracking on, it's good to have a general toolbox talk about it all, and even a practice of, right, I'm going to pretend I'm down at the bottom. You need to winch me up. I'm going to go in and make sure the radios are working, and just really kind of hammer home that all the elements that you've got in place are actually fit for purpose and are going to work.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point, and also think about the individuals that are doing those works. It's no good sending the 20 stone person down and having the 5 stone person trying to winch them up, because that's not going to work, is it?
Exactly.
So it's kind of thinking about all those scenarios really, and making sure that it all works. So what kind of other stuff? So thinking about obviously setting up the job as well, you probably want to have adequate lighting to see down in these areas.
Definitely. They're always dark and dingy and horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you want lighting just to see the big horrible spiders down there, so you can avoid them.
Yeah, the 100 years of cobwebs you got to get
exactly.
Yes, the lighting, barriers as well, because obviously if you're working in over a hole or anything like that,
you've got fall from height, risk from working at height.
You've got to think about other people in and around these areas and protecting them from accidentally walking into and falling down any sort of locations. Obviously, your standard PPE for asbestos as well. You definitely need all that. That may include boots, overalls, respirator. Yeah, I think that kind of covers.
Yeah, the equipment wise, I mean, I suppose again, it all depends on the area that you're accessing, because you might assess something, and then when you get down into it, because a lot of underground stuff has water seeping and things like that, you might end up having a load of water that you have to wade through and stuff like that. So again, it's kind of, you need that training in place so that staff stop if they find something new, reassess it, and then identify whether they can carry on as they are or if they need more equipment, because they might need Wellington boots, waders. The job might need to be kind of re-looked at completely.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because it's not until you get into it that you actually really know the full working sometimes.
And that's it. And that's the way these jobs are kind of costed as well. It's, there's usually, sometimes there's a bit of a phase into it. It's the initial inspection to go down and assess what we actually need.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes the initial survey, but it may get to the point where actually we need these additional steps. And that may be even creating escape routes within the areas.
Yes.
That's always possible, because sometimes you can't physically get to all these areas, or it's not safe to go as far as you need to. So you need to create additional points of ingress and egress.
That is a very good point. Yeah, you might need to break areas out. So you've got other emergency access points, or you might look at it and say, well, if we do this half from this access point, the other half from the other newly created access point, because that is a less
thing to do.
Yeah, a less risky thing.
Yeah. I kind of think that covers sort of
bit of food for thought on confined space.
It's definitely, and as you can appreciate, that's not a standard asbestos inspection.
No.
There's usually, obviously, with all that stuff, there is additional costs, and it's something to bear in mind if you're looking to get these types of works. And obviously, that's how you would do it safely. And again, as Ian said, it's having that awareness for your asbestos surveyors to obviously stop before they enter these types of locations.
Right, I hope you enjoyed that one. Remember, asbestos first, not last.